Hello.
Hi,
Hi,
Raymond.
Hi, how are you doing, Pam?
I am well. How are you?
I'm doing so good. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, thank you so much for being here. I have to introduce you, but I'm going to let you talk more about who you are and how you came into knowing. But guys, first I have to tell you, Raymond and I are friends. We go back a while. It was a fast friendship because he read for me, and the reading was just so spot on that I sat for a while trying to digest it all. And Raymond and I became friends, and it's like we've been knowing each other forever. Raymond, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. We're like a soul family. And that's the way I always tell Pam is that, we're so connected and so in sync with each other. It's crazy, but it's an amazing journey. And I'm just so happy that our paths crossed and we are now here.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I have to tell you, Raymond is a third generation natural born psychic medium, and his abilities are so uncanny and so spot on that if you were to go to his website, you would see the testimonials, and they're one after the other of how people have just said, "Oh my God, he couldn't have known this. He's so spot on." And so what I want to do is get Raymond to elaborate on who he is and what he does and how he came into his own self as a psychic medium.
All right. Well, thank you so much for introducing me, Pam, to your audience. And for those of you that don't know, my name is Raymond Guzman. I'm out of Victoria, Texas, and I'm 36 years old. And how my journey began, I was a natural born psychic medium. Basically, I was born. My first paranormal experience was at the age of 4, when my father brought in some antiques into the house and placed them on a shelf. I
Mm.
started having a lot of paranormal experiences where I would see these faces from these spirits making faces at me. And, a
Wow.
child is going to get scared, right?
Yeah.
So it was just terrifying. And I told my mom, who was also a medium, that, what I was seeing. And at the time, she decided to go ahead and just get rid of those objects from the house. As soon as that
Mm.
happened, activity stopped. And from there, in my teens, I had a lot of paranormal experiences that I went through. I would see spirits in school. We had this old gymnasium that had used to be a high school and was closed off,
Mm.
and they remodeled it and turned it into a gymnasium. And when they did that, I went in there one time, actually saw what we call a shadow man
Mm.
standing there, and I had a cart pushed towards me. I could have been injured, but luckily my guardian angels were there protecting me, and that prevented me from getting hurt. And my friend, at the time, she went in the gym with me after I went out, running, telling her what had happened, and she went in herself, and she saw what I saw was basically a big shadow man, about 7 to 10 feet tall, and
Wow.
he had his top hat. And these are like multi-dimensional beings, so they're very dangerous, and they're not
Mm.
something to really mess around or you want to stick around at all. And she saw it. We went to the principal, and he just cast it off as being imagination, a child's imagination. But
Wow.
that was, one of the experiences that I had. And then going into my teens, I kind
Mhm.
of shut off the ability. I feel like, some mediums, some psychics, we tend to shut off our gifts at a certain age because, social conditioning. You're going to school, you don't have time to really focus on a lot of that. And going into my early adulthood life, in my 20s, I decided to, just go on a regular job. And I've done everything from telemarketing to retail to uh, you know being a business analyst for Sprint
Mhm.
in a 500 employee call center, and
Mm.
then also doing scheduling for a carport company. So I've done everything. And
Wow.
um, what happened, my last job that I had gotten really sick prior to actually resigning from that. And that was my job at the carport company.
Mhm.
And I had this weird experience, where I, just was working, and one day I had these birds. They just flew in, 2 doves, into the building in the room that I was working in. All the employees had
Wow.
gone for lunch. I was the only one in the office. I went running to the warehouse because it was a
Mhm.
manufacturing facility, and Oh my God, I can't, explain it. It was just terrifying, but I knew that that had some kind of meaning. It was symbolic, spirit, that's the way they operate. They give us
Sure.
a message. And so I decided, I kept getting sick, having these bad anxiety attacks and panic attacks. So
Mm,
for all those audience members and that are listening to this podcast, you're not alone. I've been there. I know exactly what it feels like to have anxiety, have, really crippling anxiety where you don't know, you feel like you're dying, you can't breathe.
mm,
And it got so bad that I just, I had to just quit. And after I quit that job, that was in December of 2013. Well,
mhm,
in February of 2014, I was at Walmart shopping and I was holding on to a cart, and I just felt like an elephant sitting on my chest and sharp pains in my shoulder blades. And I talk about this in my book, which I'll get to that later in this
mhm.
podcast as well.
Sure.
And I just started, feeling like I was going to die. My
Mm,
heart started slowing down, and I actually felt the last two beats, and it stopped. And I
oh
saw
wow.
nothing but darkness, the tunnel of light that everybody says.
Mm,
And then I just, after what seemed like an eternity of time, which was probably just maybe about less than a minute, I felt my heart kick back into rhythm.
mm.
And this is something I don't talk about a lot to a lot of people, but I think it's beneficial for a lot of people to know that,
Right.
we do go through near death experiences. And this, this is something that's very real. And after that, when my heart restarted, I just felt very tired and very thirsty. So I knew something was
Mm,
wrong. So I was rushed to the hospital, and they did a lot of exams, and they said that basically they had seen that, that it was a possibility I had a heart attack. They wanted to give me a stress test.
wow.
And I heard Spirit keep telling me there in the hospital, do not allow that stress test, because if you do have it, you're going to die.
Mm, mm.
So I just told the doctors no, and they said, well, if you walk out here, you're a dead man, basically, if you were to have another heart attack or something like that. So
Yeah.
they just said
Wow.
to go, to a cardiologist after that. But I walked out having my faith, in Spirit, and just having faith that I would be okay.
Mm,
And after that, I continued to have anxiety attacks mainly for about 6 months until I contacted a spiritual healer.
mm,
And this healer was the one that told me, she says, you are a psychic medium. You have a mission. You're going to do great things with your ability. What's causing it is that you are not really tuning in. You're resisting your gift. And
mm.
so you just need to embrace who you are. And once you embrace that, you'll find out. So I was skeptical, when I heard that, most
Sure.
people are skeptical when you hear something like that. You're like,
Mm.
because you don't wake up one day and just say, I'm going to be a psychic medium. I'm going to be helping
Right.
people and reading them, and so I just dismissed that. I was like, no, that's not going to happen. So about, Spirit kept talking to me, my abilities and senses were heightened after that near death experience, and everything that all the abilities that I was born with were basically like on steroids. It was like all,
Wow.
magnified. And so
Sure.
Spirit kept saying, Raymond, you need to go into a psychic medium group. And they kept telling me how to do this, like step by step. They said,
Hmm.
go to Facebook, join a psychic groups in there, and they're free to read for people. And I went in there and I said, what the heck? So people, for those that are listening in, you haven't been to a Facebook psychic reading group. Basically, it's a forum, and you go in there and people have their photos, posted, and then they have a question on their photo about what they want read, or they'll just say, can you give me a general reading? So I went
Hmm.
in there, got my feet wet and started reading one by one. And then sure enough, everybody kept saying, oh my God, how do you know this? Oh my God, you're the real deal.
Hmm.
And I was just
Yep.
like, that was validation for me at that point. And I
Sure.
was like, you know what? Maybe this is why I was having all these anxiety attacks. Maybe this is the message that I didn't understand. I had also been seeing the number 333, 3:33 p.m. every day for
Hmm.
a year after my anxiety, after the near death experience. So I
Wow.
didn't know what was Spirit trying to tell me. So I found out after they explained it to me that when people see angel numbers and they see these 333s or 1111 or 1212, these are all synchronicities in the world, and it connects us. But it's also a message from Spirit that there's something in your waking life that you need to really tackle and need to do in order to get
Mm.
ahead and get on your correct life path. So
Wow.
after that, I started reading people. I started off reading people for free for about
Hmm.
several months and almost a year, and everything was great. But then I had a lot of people come to me and they were like, Raymond, you really need to start charging people, for your abilities. You need to
Right.
do that because you're giving your time and your energy. And I didn't know, the impact that it would have, but I would do readings every day, three. I started off with like 3 to 4, then I did about 12 a day, and sometimes even
Hmm.
20. And it just
Wow.
became so draining. When you're a
Sure.
psychic and you're using your energy, or you're a medium and you're using your energy, it really is going to affect your health. And I was starting to get affected physically now again, having
Sure.
anxiety attacks and just feeling so drained and tired. So
Hmm.
I learned to kind of, polish my skills a little bit. I, did a lot of self meditation, and basically that's what brought me to where I am now reading people. And a lot of people ask me, I want to get into this, I'm a psychic medium myself, or I have abilities, but how do you do it? How do you build your
Sure.
clientele? And I told them, when you're an entrepreneur, because that's what I consider myself, in
Hmm.
this, I'm not just a psychic medium, I'm also an author, a writer,
Sure.
a blogger, and a vlogger. And
Yeah.
you have no moment of rest. Sometimes you have to sacrifice your own necessities to make sure that other people have their healing that they need, because ultimately,
Sure.
as a psychic medium, that is our, it comes with a great responsibility. We give people healing through our messages.
Right.
And so, that's where I'm at now. And slowly, over time, I built this clientele that I have now. I've expanded, and I don't do phone readings like other
Hmm.
psychic mediums do, or through Skype or face to face, because I'm more of a channeler. So I
Sure.
listen to spirit as they're talking, and I type it out, kind of like automatic writing.
Hmm.
And so that's what I do now. But yeah, that's the whole story up to
Wow.
date,
Well,
and it's been an amazing journey,
sure.
and so
Sure.
fulfilling in so many aspects. But I'm just so excited because I have so many things that are coming up, and
Yeah.
I know that this is just going to continue to blossom.
Right. Well, and it's amazing because as you talk about your abilities and everything, I know that you are clairvoyant,
Yes,
you're clairaudient, and you're claircognizant, as well as some other gifts. But if you would explain to the audience a little bit more about that, and can you break it down about how you use those gifts and those abilities?
absolutely. Thank you so much for asking. That's a very good question. So, the 4 clairs that Pam has explained to you, I have of those abilities. And how it works is it's divided into a psychic. A person can be born a psychic, and a person can be born a medium. Not everyone that's a psychic is a medium, and not everyone that's a medium is a psychic. And so, can you give me one moment? Oh, so basically,
Okay.
are you there?
Yes, I'm
Okay,
here.
1 second.
Sometimes spirit has to have attention, so bear with us while we pause for a second.
I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay, so what I was explaining was that basically when you have, um, I'm a clairvoyant, so basically I see a lot of things through the third eye. Well, how I
Mhm.
explain this to people is that when you have clairvoyance, it's almost like you are using your all of your senses together, but you see things through your third eye. And so I'm seeing things through my third eye. It's almost like a snapshot of comic strips, or
Mm,
like seeing things playing on a screen, and that's how you get
sure.
those messages. And the way spirit operates is that they either use signs, symbols. So let's say I'm reading someone, and it's about love, and they want to know what when are they going to find their soulmate, or
Okay.
they have a question about an existing partner. But um, they don't give too much information. I don't ask my clients to really give a lot of information, just, give a question, or, a specific question. But from there, I allow my gift to take over. And so when I'm
Mm,
reading for them, I will see if, let's say, they're are asking about their partner, and, their marriage.
okay.
If they're like going through a divorce, I would see like the legal scales, like for Libra, the sign of Libra.
Mm,
So I
mhm,
would see
mhm.
that, and or I would see a courtroom, like a legal document, or the what do you call that, a gavel.
Yeah.
So that would be like, and then I know I interpret that there's something legal going on in their marriage that is possibly going to be coming up.
Mm.
So I think a lot of people, when we use the clairvoyant part, a lot of people try to interpret that
Sure.
themselves as the psychic. And when you try to interpret that, you can, kind of confuse the messages or not really, understand it. So what I had to do is just give them the messages, as I receive them from spirit, and
Mhm.
allow them to kind of sit with them and resonate with them. With my clear audience, basically, I'll hear things telepathically in the mind from spirit. So
Mhm.
it could be, my own voice. A lot of people think that you're going to necessarily hear another voice talking to you.
Right.
While
You're
that,
not gonna hear God. This is God.
right, this is God talking to you.
Right.
But it's not always like that. It's spirit, the way I like to explain to people when I refer to spirit, these are angels. They could be angels or your past loved ones that are now in spirit. And since they don't have a physical body and a voice to communicate with you, they're basically are utilizing your vibration to channel it through you. So a lot
Okay.
of people will hear their own thoughts and their own voices and think that, oh, well, maybe they're just making this up or imagining it. But
Mhm.
that's how the clear audience works, and I receive those messages that way. With the claircognizance, it's just clear knowing, knowing the things,
Mhm.
places, events that have happened that you have no kind of, recollection of, or there's no way that you could possibly know this, if you weren't living with the person or going through what they go through. And it's
Sure.
just information that spirit provides. And then with clairsentience, it's basically you clear sensing. So you can be a sensitive. When we refer to a sensitive, these are all of your senses: your taste, touch, smell,
Mm.
and your feelings. And you can feel or just sense when something is off, like a certain ability, or a person's energy is kind of off. You could get like a negative
Mhm.
vibe from them.
Okay.
And this all ties into intuition. And everybody asks, well, I don't have any gifts. We all have a certain level of intuition. We are all, but we've become so socially conditioned by, religion, and by
Mm.
teaching, of the family and school, that we
Sure.
kind of turn away from our intuition. But good examples every day, let's say you know that you're going to be going to a place,
Mm.
let's say a gas station, and you need
Mhm.
to fill up, but you also want to get a taquito there. And
Mhm.
you more than likely, something is telling you in your gut that by the time that you get there, that taquitos, they're going to run out for the day and they're not going to have
Mm.
any more. But you're like,
Uh-huh.
no, maybe there's just a chance that they'll have one. And then you get there, and sure enough, there was no taquitos left. I know it sounds
Wow.
so trivial and so, basic,
Mhm.
but that's your intuition talking to you. And I
Right.
think that's where a lot of people just don't understand that every day in every situation, I was talking to a client the other day, and we were messaging each other, and she was telling me that, she felt like she was going to get fired from her job. And
Mm.
she just had this awful feeling. And sure enough, it wasn't that she was necessarily fired, but there were some things that went on, and she, she had to resign
Wow.
from that position. But she trusted her intuition, and she was kind of already prepared. And that's the beautiful part of spirit, is that they basically are trying to prepare us here in the physical world,
Sure.
prepare us for things that come up and for our journey. And we're so connected to them, but we just don't listen. We don't want to listen because
Mhm.
we have so many things going on, with our work. People are trying to make a living. They have stresses, financial stress.
Right.
And so a lot of people turn off those gifts, and they're just more focused on living in the moment, of
Mhm.
work and everything, but they're not tuning into their awesome gift of spirit and how it's there.
Sure.
So that's
Wow.
how those gifts work. With the mediumship ability, that's separate. And basically, how I do that is that spirit will again channel through me, but it's done differently, a little
Mhm.
differently. I'm what we call a physical medium. So I start taking on, let's say, this person that, a living person wants to get a message from their past loved one that has, crossed over. If they pass, let's say, through a heart attack, what I would
Mhm.
start feeling in my body would be my chest start hurting,
Okay.
or I would be feeling pressure or like a shortness of breath for a second. So basically,
Mm.
I take on a lot of the symptoms. If a person passed through a stroke, I would feel the either the right or the left side of my brain and feel pressure
Mm-hmm.
there. And I know that it was either some kind of condition in the head.
Sure.
If they died violently, let's say in a murder or a suicide, well, I'm going to say a murder. Then they were shot. I would feel pain where they were shot, or they were stabbed. I
Wow.
would feel a stabbing pain in that area.
Mm.
So basically, it's not something that's pleasant. But ultimately, I'm willing to allow myself to take on those symptoms to get the messages across. Because until you actually have an experience, I think a lot of people negate the fact that this is something that is very real, and a lot of people have had paranormal experiences. It's just that they're either in the closet, they don't want
Mm.
to come out and talk about them because they don't want to be perceived as crazy, or they
Right.
fear judgment, that someone is going to judge them because they're different, or because they have this beautiful gift that people can't understand. So
Sure.
that's
Sure.
basically how the gifts work.
Wow, wow. And we have had conversations about that when it comes to um, doing and using your gifts, because, and I'm going to get to the next question, but I just have to put that out there because you do have people who have these gifts. They're thinking, oh my God, what is this? They're seeing shadow people, or they're having these dreams, or they're, just some unexplainable thing that's happening to them that they can't figure out, but they're too afraid because they've been conditioned, like you say, through religion. They've been conditioned through teaching in school or just family. People have told them, oh, you're of the devil and you're doing witchcraft and all, which amazes me because you and I have talked about my journey, and we'll talk about that in another podcast. But so many people, like you say, they have these gifts, they have this intuition. And as you said, everyone has intuition. How you use it, if you use it, that's the key. But I want to get to something because you talked about your near-death experience when you were younger, and you talked about how you came in, and when you saw the shadow man, you talked, the antiques and all of that.
Hmm.
But you've been through some hardships, and namely, you were part of the displaced, and you've talked about this with me before about being homeless when the Hurricane Harvey hit back in
Absolutely.
2017. How can you, when you talk about this, because many people have been through hardships, many people who have things happen to them,
Right.
but how does that tie into your spiritual path?
Oh my goodness, that's such a good question. I'm so glad you brought that up, Pam. A lot of people that are tuning in don't know a lot about me. That I haven't really spoken a lot about this, but I've actually been homeless twice. I'm meaning that I've lost our
Wow.
home. We've lost our homes two times
Mm.
in a matter of years. 1998 was the first experience. It was a major flood that took place, and basically our river levees broke, kind of like Katrina, and it
Mm.
flooded the entire south side of the city, about 12 feet, basically destroying our home completely. And then with Hurricane Harvey, I had actually predictions on my website that I had saw a
Mm.
lot of catastrophic hurricanes the year before. I had made the predictions for 2017, and that I had seen
Right.
some for the Gulf Coast, and I knew Texas was going to be one. But on August 27th, 2017, Hurricane Harvey hit us, and it destroyed
Mm-hmm.
our home as well. And being homeless, it made me realize how strong and how connected Spirit is through me. I was displaced, and we were in Austin, Texas. We had to go there, and we stayed there for about two and a half months there, and it was just a whole experience. But what it taught me was that um, we have to go through hardships in life, but it's not a punishment. A lot of people see this as a punishment from
Okay.
God or from Spirit, but it's just part of your journey. And
Mm-hmm.
when a person becomes stagnant in their life, this could be either there's no change, the universe steps in, and it forces change upon us to make us stronger and make us realize that there's things in our lives that we need to accept. Like for myself, an example, prior to the hurricane, I had trouble saying yes to accepting help from other people. And I'm
Mm.
so strong. I was raised that way, to be very strong-willed and not really try to, burden someone else or worry someone else, that may want to help you, but otherwise you don't want to ask them, because
Mm-hmm.
you have that. So with that, it really humbled me with the whole hurricane experience. to really accept help and know that I'm not alone,
Right.
and I just every day I kept meditating and just keeping positive and praying. And eventually I found contractors and they actually repaired our home,
Mm-hmm.
remodeling all the inside and the outside. But it was quite an experience. And I had so many people, I had set up a GoFundMe account, and so many people came forward, and a lot of people that I had read for, clients and just people in
Mm.
general, and they helped out, making contributions whatever they could. So I'm eternally grateful to them, to my fans, to my clients, to you, to everybody, that came forth. It's just been an awesome experience. And it's taught me, my spirituality is that whatever I'm going through, or whatever any one of you out there is going through that's a hardship, don't feel like it's the end of your world, or it's the end of something, because there's always a brighter tomorrow. There's more to life than where you are that particular time. In a year from now, you'll be in an entirely different area, and you'll
Mm-hmm.
look back at that and see how much growth you actually have, accumulated and acclimated to. So
Sure.
that's what
Right.
it really taught me about having a lot of inner strength.
Right, right. And we I'm going to get to another question about the hurricanes, because let me say this first before I get to that. If you go to raymondguzman.net, raymondguzman.net, you will see on his website predictions. Raymond predicted Hurricane Harvey. He's predicted quite a few things. He even predicted, and I'm just going to put it out there, he predicted Trump will become president. Oh my God. I was looking at your website, Raymond. I'm going like,
I
no.
know. And
And
the
but
whole
he
thing
you
with
did
that one,
predict that.
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you did predict that.
Yeah, and the one thing I wanted to say for the people that, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I wanted to
Go ahead.
chime in on that because I think it's so important, about that when they read that. I don't want them to misinterpret. When I got that prediction from Trump
Hmm.
a year before, a lot of psychics and mediums and colleagues had predicted that it was going to be Hillary Clinton. I
Right.
knew it wasn't going to be Hillary Clinton, and I knew it was going to be
Hmm.
Trump, but I did not want to say it was going to be Trump
Right,
because, oh
right.
my God, can you imagine the amount of backlash I would have had experienced
Sure, sure.
to make something like that? So I kind of worded it in a way that he would be a male president,
Right.
very controversial. There would be a lot of riots, a lot of uproar around this
Yeah.
person, and he wouldn't be well received, from a lot of
Right.
people as the
Right.
America's next president. And so I knew exactly who
Sure.
it was. And up to the day of that election, and people were counting down, I knew it was going to be Trump. I just knew it.
Sure. And the thing I must say to my listeners, Raymond is not a Trump supporter. He didn't get on his website and he's like, he didn't do all of that, make America great again. He wasn't necessarily a Hillary supporter. He just put out there what Spirit had gave him.
Exactly.
And that is ties into the next question, because you've also made quite a few celebrity predictions that I know for myself have been validated. They have come true. And like I said, if you go to raymondguzman.net, you will see those predictions going back, not just 2018, 2017, and further. You will see these predictions. But when we talk about and you write these celebrity predictions, can you tell us some of the ones that stood out to you?
Absolutely. The one that's there's several. I'm going to go through them real quick. Prince Harry, that he got
Yes.
married recently with Meghan Markle, beautiful lady. I love her
Mm-hmm.
completely. I think she's a doll and just a beautiful spirit. And so is Prince Harry. He reminds me so much of Princess Diana. He has a lot of her soul, and his mother's very proud of him. And I had saw a year before that he was going to be engaged, and I gave a timeline. That's the beautiful thing about my gift when I'm doing a lot of predictions, for celebrities or for the world. Spirit sometimes gives me a certain timeline, and I got the timeline right. I got the timeline of when he was going to get engaged and the timeline that he
Mm-hmm.
would get married. And sure enough, it happened just like I saw. I
Right.
also predicted for Australia the same sex marriage.
Mm-hmm.
For the LGBTQ community. And I knew that it was going to happen, but I saw it further out in the future. But this is where I
Okay.
tell people that timelines are kind of, when we give a timeline, of when something's going to happen. It may not necessarily be in that specific timeline, because
Sure.
of the fact that spirit sometimes allows us only to see a snapshot of that person's
Mm.
life, or of what's going to happen in an event. But free will of people can change those timelines. So a lot of people kept saying, you were wrong. I wasn't wrong. It happened, but I had saw it more like around 2008, 2019, 2020, but it happened sooner. The fact is that I told a lot of people it happened. I had seen it, that it was going to happen, and it did come through. So that was one of the predictions. And then I also predicted that Sam Smith, we all love
Mm-hmm.
Sam Smith, the singer. He was dating that other guy from 13 Reasons Why, and
Yeah.
I can't remember his name offhand, but I had done a celebrity psychic reading on YouTube, and I
Sure.
had gone through, the reading, and I told, this audience, my YouTubers, that, my fans, that I had seen that this relationship wouldn't work, and like a month ago
Mm-hmm.
or a couple weeks ago, it came to pass.
Yes, it did. Brandon Flynn. That's who.
Yes. And
Yeah.
then Justin Bieber and Selena Gomez, they had a
Sure.
breakup. I had seen that going on. Remember, they got back together, and
Right.
everybody thought, oh, this was like a fairy tale couple. They were going to, stay together, and they
Mm-hmm.
didn't. They
Mm-hmm.
broke up.
I'm telling you,
And
man. When I sit here, I get chills because
right, me
people
too.
just don't know when they look and they see. And I go back. I do this often. I go back to your website and I reread the predictions, going like, "Oh my God!"
Then I did one for Drake. I'd seen a lot of legal drama for him,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
that came to pass.
Right.
Even
Right.
did a celebrity psychic reading on him. And then the hurricane season of 2017, was
Sure.
very awful. But there's too many to name here for the time's sake of the
Mm-hmm.
podcast. But like you said, a lot of people that want to know a little bit more of the predictions that I have made. And for those that maybe that haven't come to pass yet, it's sometimes more future oriented. So you have to hold
Mm-hmm.
on to it. But there's a lot on my YouTube channel that are not on my website. These are in the form of psychic medium readings on celebrities
Sure.
mainly, and
Mm-hmm.
they can check that out. That's the URL is www.youtube.com/psychic medium Ray. But if they go to my website, there's a YouTube link there, and they can just click on that, and it'll take them to my YouTube channel.
Right, right. Well, there's so many things that tie into everything. It's like I feel like a kid bouncing a ball, like, oh my God, I gotta get this, I gotta ask this. But when we talk about your predictions, when we talk about your mediumship and your readings for people, what is it like being you? What is it like a day in a life for you, and what do you experience?
Oh my goodness. It's like, it's something, sometimes it's like a curse. It's a blessing, definitely, but it's like a curse many times that, I go in, I get up in the morning, I do my work that I have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I start, later in the day, start, meditating and praying. But, I go into these readings, and I do them through email or through chat. That's the
Mm-hmm.
two primary methods that I do, personal or private readings at this time.
Mm-hmm.
Experience a lot of information, or I'll get DMs blowing me up and blowing up my
Mm.
DMs and Instagram, and people just like, do you give
Right.
a free reading, or do you give, I'm going through this, can you help me? Or, how much do you charge for
Mm-hmm.
your readings? And,
Sure.
when I go out and shopping, I'm around people, I can just pick up on certain information, but I've kind of learned to tune that out when I'm out in public, because I want to function
Mm.
and
Okay.
concentrate on my own life. So I kind of tune that out. And the way that I do that is basically I have a certain way in my third eye. I'll picture a door and shut that
Mm-hmm.
door completely to spirit. So that way it's a lot of a visualization tactic, that you
Uh-huh.
visualize it, but it really is effective, and it's helped me also. I also never leave the house without some crystals. I use
Mm.
black tourmaline.
Yes.
I
Uh-huh.
use rainbow moonstone. I also
Okay.
carry a Saint Benedictine medal medallion, and another one, another medal, as well as the Virgin Mary, because I have a strong
Mm-hmm.
connection to her. Even though I'm not religious, I am spiritual. I still believe in those entities, because they are part of the Ascended Masters. And
Sure.
that's going into something else. But
Yeah.
for the most part, I have to have protection, spiritual protection. So I
Mm-hmm.
also will envision a bubble around me to protect me from psychic attacks or just negative people out in the world, because right now the world is crazy, and the
Uh,
world is vibrating at a very negative level. And if
Right.
you're a sensitive person and you go out, you're going to get blasted with a lot of that energy, and
Sure.
you're going to come home and people are moody, and they're having arguments with their family, and they're just not understanding why they are
Mm-hmm.
feeling this way. It's because, that's the day, that's kind of like the day, a life, my life, and a day in my life. It's like, it's always constantly, channeling spirit,
Mm-hmm.
um, seeing signs, symbols, receiving information. Um,
Sure.
I do everything. A lot of people don't realize, how much I do. Apart from that, I write daily horoscopes. They're on my
Mm-hmm.
Facebook page.
Right.
I do YouTube readings on, for the most part, daily. I also do weekly horoscope readings on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I use a lot of my platforms to educate people, on spiritual things. So I'll post a lot of, on Instagram about, spiritual memes or things, topics, posts that are educational in a way, but also that incorporate fun, because I believe that, we need to have a balance in our life. Not everything
Sure.
just spiritual, because we are human in essence.
Yeah.
So, my days are not normal. They're not, they're
Mm.
not planned out all the time. Where it has to, go a certain way. It's going to fluctuate, and sometimes I have to, do certain things differently every day to, get the messages across, and
Mm-hmm.
that.
Wow, wow. You spoke about the Virgin Mary and Saint Benedict, and one of the things I want to touch on a little bit is the notion that if you are a psychic medium, or if you are have some part of yourself, or even your whole self, that you delve into the to divination, whether that is psychic mediumship, or it might be tarot cards, oracle cards. Some people palm read. Some people have just intuition that they use, and these are gifts. But one of the things that I have often heard, and I want you to speak on this, is that you're not of God. You're of the devil if you do those type of things.
Oh
I,
God,
I want
yes,
you to speak on that, because it's this common notion, especially in the Bible Belt, because I'm in Memphis, and
sure.
Memphis is part of the Bible Belt. But it's common belief that you are of the devil and you have no God in you if you practice these things.
Oh
Can
my
you speak
goodness.
to that?
Girl, I could tell you everything about that, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because I could go on preaching about that. Let me tell you, when I first started off doing this, I got a lot of that from a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what a lot of people, they turn their gifts off, or they don't want to come out of the psychic closet because they fear being judged by a lot of people that are in religion, or different cultures that don't accept
Mm-hmm.
being a psychic medium. But for all of the listeners to Pam's podcast that are tuning in today, let me explain something. When you look at a lot of the doctrine that, and I won't get into religion, and my intent is not to offend anyone, first and foremost. But a lot of this, of the Bible and the doctrine, a lot of it's been translated over and over and over. A lot of it is not accurate. A lot of it is
Mm-hmm.
is misinterpreted and not written correctly.
Yep.
When you think about Jesus, how Jesus had this amazing ability to connect to his Father in spirit, God, and hear God, and receive messages telepathically
Mm-hmm.
from spirit, from the Holy Spirit, and also to heal the sick. He was a healer. Jesus was a medium. He was the ultimate medium. He was a healer. And he could sense the devil and evil. He could sense negative vibrations. He could, he could do a lot of things that translate into today. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the fear that people have right now in the world about, tapping into divination, or being with, a witch, or, anything like that. And I want to talk about that is because it's all fear based, and it's all social conditioning that, has been passed on through generations. What
Right.
I tell people is that anything that is based out of the vibration of fear is not of, is not of love. It's
Mm-hmm.
not of spirit, and it closes it off. People fear things that they don't understand, but ultimately, it's, if you come from a religious background, you're not going to go to hell because you're a witch, a white witch, or you
Right.
practice magic, or because you are a healer and you do Reiki, or
Mm.
because you're a psychic medium and you channel.
I love that. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Go ahead. Let me
yes.
listen.
A lot of people think that, oh, automatically, you're just going to be, casted into the pits of hell, and you're going to go,
Mm.
and just be, you're a sinner because you do that. And it's like, people in the church and people in religion, they do a lot of things that would be considered, sinful and that are
Mm-hmm.
not in the doctrine, but those things are not ever spoken of. They try to hide them.
Sure.
And that's something that I learned, when I used to go to church. The thing that I was born and raised Catholic, and then I went to an all black church for about 12 years,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a Baptist church, and I was baptized through that. And every time I was in the church, I never felt like I could connect to the messages being delivered.
Okay.
I never felt like I was part of the congregation or part of the community, the spiritual community. And I kept saying, why am I not? Why isn't it clicking? Why doesn't this feel like accurate? Like, why?
Mm-hmm.
Why is everything so, fear based? And why do you have to, do certain things and abstain from certain,
Mm-hmm.
having fun and living your life? Why do we just have to come to earth and, live, go to school, work, and then die?
Right.
That it just didn't make sense to me. And now that I have gotten older and I've, I'm solidly in my spiritual path, I've understood now that, that is just fear-based things, that people need to understand that when you go back, there's a lot of discrepancies in the doctrine. Like
Mm-hmm.
I said, Jesus, there's articles. I even wrote an article on my website about Jesus being a medium. I believe it's on there, but there's been a lot of people that have also explained that. And that's something also that I will be having in my upcoming book.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Starseed Footsteps, and it's going to be out later in August. So that's coming up soon. But I hope this kind of, if my message right now to a lot of you listening out there that come from a very strong religious background, don't be afraid to step outside of the box. Don't be
Mm-hmm.
afraid to be who you are and who you feel that is right. If you don't feel like a message is right, or you feel like, people in your family are not going to understand you, ultimately you need to live your own life. You can't, live thinking of, what is so and so going to say? How are they going to judge you? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, you have to live with yourself.
Right.
Everybody is going to have an opinion about you, about what you do, and you can't live like that. That's not living. That's just existing,
Sure.
and it's also not following your own life path. So ultimately, if you're living in your authenticity, you don't want to hold on to fear-based principles or fear-based teachings that basically promote anything that is negative, or that you're going to be castigated in some kind of way because
Sure.
you're going towards choosing a different path.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. Wow. And as you talk, one of the questions that I want to ask is, what is your mission? And I know you, but when I look at your platform, if I was a new client, someone that was just contemplating, my path and where I'm
Sure.
going, and I wanted a reading, or I was thinking about getting a reading, how do you use your platform to educate people on your mission? Because getting a reading is one thing, but it resonating with you, and then also being able to decide, as you talk about following your own path, deciding to do that. How do you use your mission and your platform to execute that?
That's a very good question. And how I would answer that is that, being a psychic medium, and now that I'm, growing and continuing to expand, what I do in different forums and different avenues with the projects that I have, my mission is not for fame or for the money.
Mm.
I think a lot of people in the spiritual community that are going into this sometimes see it more as a profit for them.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, what I'm at a point in my life that I'm 36 years old, and to me, it's very important to live in my own authenticity. So, what my goal is to use my platforms, where all social media platforms, to educate people about their own gifts and empower people to come out of the psychic closet, to come out of the healing closet, whatever closet they're stuck in,
Mm.
or they are just fearful to come out and be who they are and embrace the light worker in them. To just not be afraid. You're not alone. There's so many of us out here that have taken this. When I started becoming, stepped out as a psychic medium, I
Mm-hmm.
faced so much criticism. I
Mm.
faced so much negativity from people who would wish me that I die, or told me I was going to hell, and
Oh.
just being so negative, and I could have easily just said, you know what, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to go and do something else. but I knew that this was my gift and this is something that I was going to be doing, to help people.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've used in my platform, I use it when I'm doing readings to not just give messages to people and then have them continue to come back. Yes, it's good if they need, advice, because we all need advice at certain times in our life, that
Sure.
they can come back. But I want to provide them with tools, and I refer to them as tools to empower them and for them to kind of reclaim their power in their life and
Mm.
understand that they are intuitive themselves, how to tap into that intuition, how to navigate, sort of use the information from spirit to kind of navigate themselves, and know that they ultimately have free will. Because a lot of people think that I'm a fortune teller and that I just tell people predictions. That's
Mm-hmm.
not what it's all about. And I think that's the big misinterpretation about being a psychic medium. What I do is to give messages, bring forth the messages for the highest good. Are they all sugar coated, or are they all positive? No. I don't believe in sugarcoating anything or telling people what they want to hear, but rather what spirit needs them to hear.
Sure.
So I'll bring a lot of this information forth to them so that way they can use that information and kind of make decisions based on their own free will on what they need to do next in their life to gravitate towards a greater way of living, something that's better for them, that brings them healing, and not be crippled or be, crippled, not physically crippled, but emotionally or
Sure.
spiritually, and being at a place in their life where they just feel chaotic. And I encourage people, to stay away from psychic shopping. A lot of people get so many psychic readings a month. It's
Mm.
insane, Pam. I've had people come to me after getting 5 different readings, and they were like, "You were the only one that hit everything on the nail that was specific, and everything that you've said, they've come back to me. They're like, everything that you said has come to pass."
Mm-hmm.
But prior to that, this girl told me, and I'm just giving examples that,
Yeah.
that I was cursed and that I needed to come back and pay $500
Oh.
to remove this curse from me that I had, and then continue to do, monthly sessions to get them out of that. And it's ridiculous when there's some people out there in the spiritual community that use this and prey upon people and make
Mm.
the jobs of real psychic mediums like myself and other colleagues difficult, because there's a lot of skeptical people out there that can't really relate, or they're fearful to get another psychic reading because if they've had a bad experience before. So it
Mm.
makes sometimes our jobs a lot more difficult to kind of get
Right.
them out of that fear-based vibration, bring them into the love vibration and light, and really to a fifth dimension type of understanding.
Mm.
Because a lot of the people that are fear-based or that are had this negative, impact, they're living more in a third dimension state of consciousness. What I mean by dimension, I'm referring to our consciousness and how awakened that person is to, the spirit realm, and awakened to knowing that there's more in life than just what's here in the physical world.
Wow.
And when you're more in a fifth dimension vibration, you're more accepting, more open,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of, go into something knowing that you're not alone, that there is spirit, there is a greater connection, in that there is a higher power, and that essentially we all have a piece of God in ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
because we are all interconnected in this web of oneness. We're all
Right.
one power. So
Wow, wow. I love that because when you talk about, we have growing up the preacher's kid that I grew up as.
uh-huh.
One of the scriptures in the Bible says that ye are gods, and I forget where it is right now, but I believe it's in Psalms, and it's actually mentioned throughout the Bible. But we have, or some of us may not know, that we have a piece of God in us. We are God-like. And so those same gifts that were embedded in us from creation, that God, the creator, has instilled in us, he has, in himself, he has instilled
Exactly.
it in us. But we can't get so tangled up in the jargon and the dogma that we begin to kind of lose sight of that. But one of the things you mentioned about people having their own gifts is that they do have them. But how can people open up to their own gifts? How can they open their minds up to the possibilities that I am divine?
Absolutely. It all starts with meditation. I tell everybody, we live in a world where it's so busy. You need to start off every morning if you can, or depending when your schedule, if you're a graveyard shift worker, whenever you get up, first thing, when you get up and you wake up, spend 5 to 10, 15 minutes, sitting, laying down. I say it's easier if you lay down with your eyes closed on your bed and just
Mm-hmm.
focus on energy. Be grateful and say a prayer to God, because I do believe in God. I believe He is a consciousness, that
Mm-hmm.
vibrates throughout the world. I don't believe that He is necessarily, like a man, physical man, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a
Mm-hmm.
state of love, of consciousness that's overpowers the whole world. And if you can connect to that vibration through your meditation, it's not going to always happen the first time you meditate. You
Sure.
have to kind of do it repetitively, and every time, maybe switch it up, do it differently. There's different meditations you can do. There's guided meditations, there's open eye meditations. You can even meditate in the shower when you're taking a bath, or
Mm-hmm.
showering. So meditation is good. Saying a prayer, also doing a lot of visualization. I talk about that a lot. Basically, seeing yourself in a white bubble of light or whatever color vibrate that resonates with you. Also working with crystals,
Mm-hmm.
protective crystals. There's so many kinds. What I tell people is that if you have a crystal shop near you, a metaphysical shop, go in there and hold the crystal in your hand. The one that feels, like it's warm and it warms up to you and you feel like really happy and loved from it,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be the right crystal for you there. But ultimately, there's so many crystals. Carry crystals with you, and carry crystals in your home, because
Mm-hmm.
they all have a vibration that can be programmed to create like an energetic field of protection, and also help you open your gifts up. For a lot of people that are intuitive to a certain point, they want to tap into their psychic abilities. Good stones are like lapis lazuli,
Mm-hmm.
amethyst, selenite, clear quartz is a master crystal. So that crystal is the mecca of all crystals, like the father of all crystals.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are my favorite crystals. And the rainbow moonstone, oh my god, that's for a lot of females out there, and males.
Mm-hmm.
You would find the rainbow moonstone connects to the divine femininity. So
Mm.
if you can get a rainbow moonstone, it will help a lot of people. Also look up your birthstone. A lot of people need to work with their birthstones as well, and there's a
Mm-hmm.
reason for that. Mine is an emerald, and green is the color of healing. So any stone that is green will heal you. You can use green stones for healing, and also to awaken your third eye in your energy. You can also use for like your third eye, the amethyst, or
Mm-hmm.
other crystals like that, and that's basically for opening your third eye.
Wow, wow. I love it, Raymond. I could talk to you all day, but time, you and I,
Sure.
we can go all day with this. But I want to talk about your book, because you did mention your book that's going to be released soon, Star Seeds, and I wanted you to talk to me a little bit about that and tell us about Star Seed, what it's about, and what you seek to accomplish with that.
Absolutely. I have a book coming out, and it's going to be out in August. It's called Starseed Footsteps. And basically, what it is it's, when I started off on this journey, I didn't have someone that told me, how to do this or how to do that. I didn't have a guide in particular, because there's no particular way of knowing how to do everything.
Sure.
But what my whole purpose of writing this book was to take all of the questions that I've been repetitively asked throughout my years of being in this, from clients all over the world, and use these to write chapters and write a book that answers a lot of these questions. So it's like it's different doorways, and so every chapter is like a doorway that you go into, and it basically educates you on everything about spiritual. I'm talking about angels. I'm talking about witchcraft and love spells. I'm talking about um, angel numbers and spirit and demons and angels, and how they exist and correlate in the world. So
Mm.
it's just a lot. I don't want to give too much away, because I know there's a
Yeah.
lot of people here that are listening, and I encourage them to get this book. I already had a friend of mine. His name is Ted, and he did read this book, and I actually have a podcast coming up with him as well. And he was reading the book with his wife Jen, and they're a lovely couple. And basically they were like, well, he read it, he was like, it changed my way of thinking and the way of seeing things. It really helped me.
Mm.
So I'm very excited about it. I feel like it's going to be a powerful tool to people listening. If you have any kind of questions, or you feel like you're kind of lost, this will be like your go-to kind of book. That's how I made it and wrote it, with that in mind,
Mm.
keeping that that principle. So that way they, can get a lot of, a lot of, answers to the things that they have questions about.
Right, right. Wow. Wow. I love it. I am so happy and so ecstatic that you took out time on your busy day, because I know you've got horoscopes and other stuff to do. But I want you to tell my audience, lastly, where they can find you, your social media platforms, your website, where they can reach you for your services, for anything that you offer, for your book that's coming out. Tell them where they can find you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Pam. You can visit my website. It's www.raymondguzman.net. That is the website, and on there you can go to the different tabs to see my readings that I offer, the testimonials, my blogs, and also my predictions. You can go to Facebook. If you're on Facebook, just type in Psychic Medium Ray into the search bar, or you can go into a URL and type in www.facebook.com/Psychic Medium Ray. And once you're in my Facebook professional page, just like the page, and you'll be notified of any posts that I do daily on that page. You can also follow me on YouTube. It's again youtube.com/Psychic Medium Ray, and on Instagram it's at Psychic Medium Ray. I kind of kept all of my handles with the same name, Psychic Medium Ray. So you can find me there.
Awesome. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. I've got to have you back on, because there's so many topics
I know
that I want to talk about. And you have been such a joy, and you have explained so many things that I think people will tune into and want to understand a little bit more about. So with that, thank you again, Raymond.
Thank you, Pam, for just being a gem in my life, and for just being such a beautiful